What's going on, everybody? It's Mr. Do-It-All, and here we just did the Rams. Now we're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers, finishing up our little two-video day with the bottom two teams in the NFC West. Let's go ahead and look at the 49ers, who had an interesting offseason as they brought in John Lynch to be their GM, who was a color commentator for Fox Sports on NFL Sundays. And Kyle Shanahan, who was recently with the Atlanta Falcons as their offensive coordinator. The same offensive coordinator who refused to run the ball when the score was 28-3. Cool. Not to hate on the guy. But let's go ahead and look at the Niners, some of their additions, what their talent looks like, offense and defense, what they might be doing, what they could be doing, and a couple of their key rookies that they brought in, as well as schedule prediction here. Now, let's go ahead and look at some of their off-season additions. Now, they brought in Brian Hoyer and Matt Barkley to compete for the starting quarterback job. Brian Hoyer should start, but we all know what the plan is with San Francisco, and that is to eventually wait for Kirk Cousins, who has been franchise tagged the last 2 years, to become a free agent so that they can go after him. They brought in Tim Hightower, Kyle Juszczyk, formerly of the Ravens, solid fullback, great hands for a fullback. Pierre Garcon, familiar with Kirk Cousins. Coincidence? I think not. Marquise Goodwin, Logan Paulson, Jeremy Zuttah, who was with the Ravens last year as well. It was a solid season. Elvis Dumervil to give them some depth behind Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner on the defensive line. It's a rush passer. Dakota Watson, Brock Coyle, Don Jones, and Robbie Gould to be their kicker. Some of their losses were Kaepernick and Blaine Gabbert. Kaepernick declined his player option to return to the team, so we know that in this offseason there's been a lot of talk about Kaepernick and what he's done off the field, which is, I'm not saying it's bad, but I do agree that with some GMs, maybe they are questioning his will to want to play football. Kaepernick has the right mindset. He does want to help people. I'm not gonna hate on him for that. They lost Torrey Smith, Len Dorsey was a huge bust. Just a bunch of guys that didn't really fit what they were doing. Obviously, we know that the Niners are in rebuild mode. They're going to be in rebuilding for the next probably a couple years. So, going ahead and looking at some of the rookies that they drafted. Now, in the first round, if we all remember correctly, they had the second overall pick, and they traded back one spot with the Bears. As I said earlier in my Bears video, that the Bears got trade raped, honestly, to move up one spot. So let's go ahead and look at some of their picks. Solomon Thomas, defensive end. It's going to be interesting. Are they going to use him in the defensive end as a 4-3, or are they going to make him a defensive tackle with a 4-3? Either way, he's a great player, and he should have success in whatever defense they run. They brought in Reuben Foster from Alabama. Character concerns. That's why he dropped all the way to the end of the first round. And they drafted a cornerback from Colorado, Ahkello Witherspoon. Solid guy. They need help in their secondary, so they brought in a running back from Utah, Joe Williams, tight end George Kittle, Trent Taylor, a receiver from Louisiana Tech, a nose tackle, a defensive end, and a cornerback. So they had a plan. Their plan was to get players that fit into their eventual rebuild, players that they want to build with. Now, this is a team that just transitioned from a 3-4 to a 4-3. They're transitioning with a new GM, new coach. Now, I really hope, I'm not a Niners fan at all. As a Cowboy fan, I do not like the Niners, but I do hope that they eventually turn it around with John Lynch. I like John Lynch. I like John Lynch as a player, and I love listening to him on Fox NFL Sundays. And maybe they can turn it around with Kyle Shanahan, who is a brilliant offensive mind. So we will see. So now let's jump into the schedule and see what the schedule brings to the San Francisco 49ers. So they start the season off versus Carolina. That should be an L. At Seattle, that would be an L. Versus the Rams on the Thursday night. Now I think that could be a toss-up. But both those teams are bad. They're equally matched, honestly. I think that both of their strong suits of their team is their defenses. So I know in the Rams video I might have given the W to the Rams, but thinking it over in this Niner video, both those games should be toss-ups. At Arizona, that's an L. At Indianapolis. Now, if Indianapolis doesn't have Andrew Luck back by this time, I think San Francisco can win this game. Just because Indianapolis is bad. They're so bad without Andrew Luck. At Washington, that's an L. Dallas and San Francisco, that's an L. At Philadelphia, that could be an L. Versus Arizona, that could be an L. Versus the Giants, that's an L. Then they get their bye week in week 11. Versus Seattle, that's probably an L. At Chicago, they could win that game. At Houston, that's an L. Versus Tennessee, that's an L. Versus Jacksonville, they could win that game. At Los Angeles, they could win that game. They can split both of those games. I just don't see a lot of talent on this team, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't see this team having much talent. They can win maybe their ceiling is like 4 wins and their floor is 1. I really like the direction that this team is heading in, especially on the defensive side of the ball. With the last couple of years, they've drafted DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, and now Solomon Thomas. They have a very young team going on, and if they can get Kirk Cousins, take him away from Washington, and they can build up their offensive line, they can compete, and they can speed up their process of their rebuild, because they have draft picks. They're going to be still getting draft picks because they're going to be trading veterans. So I just think that if they can get Kirk Cousins, that'll speed up their process a little bit. Them and the Rams are both still the worst teams in that division. So it's a little bit of, it's just going to be who finishes off worse. So that'll do it. I'm out. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts, Niner fans, NFL fans, what y'all think. I'm out. Thanks, guys.